And I love that you are the last person I want to talk to before I go to sleep at night. And it's not because I'm lonely.
I know this is meant to be romantic, but I have questions. So, it took me decades. Yes, decades. But I finally did the thing and got around to watching When Harry Met Sally because, yes, people, prior to that, even though practically everyone and their mother believes this film to be the quintessential romance movie, the one that defines the genre and whose story those that follow practically replicated over and over again, I had never seen it. I keep confusing it with Sleepless in Seattle, which I haven't seen either, but which I extend myself some grace for because Meg Ryan is in both, right? But yeah, I finally watched When Harry Met Sally, and as I'm sure you're expecting by now, I have thoughts. I mean, this is going up on Romcom Ganda Tuesday after all, so please grab yourself something to drink or snack on and let's get into it. And for those who need context, once a week, usually on Tuesdays, I tackle a rom com that I either watched as a child or should have watched as a child, and I do a rewatch or first time watch of them via my now adult self lens to see if they still hold up or if they had certain messaging worked into them that would have adult me with my eyebrows raised in a what the hell? Some of these movies I still love, even as I'm very aware of their flaws now. 10 Things I Hate About You. And some of these films I would never get or like or even begin to appreciate. For example, there's something about Mary. Where does When Harry Met Sally fall, you might ask? Well, keep watching. And like I do with these series of videos, I will start with a synopsis of the film in its entirety before moving on to my thoughts. As always, there will be timestamps for those that just want to skip to the bits that they would rather watch. And with that said, let's get on with the synopsis. The movie starts us off in 1977, and we are introduced to the character of Sally Albright sitting in our car with her luggage in the back seat, waiting for her friend Amanda's boyfriend, Harry Burns, to tear his lips long enough away from Amanda so that they can get started on their journey. You see, they have both just graduated from the University of Chicago and are headed to New York, where Sally wants to become a journalist and is thus attending journalism school, whilst Harry already has a job lined up for him. Now, if like me, this is your first time getting into this film, this is when your brain makes the connection of she's Sally? Is Harry? Are they the two from the title? Oh no! She's going to get with her friend's boyfriend? What the hell? But not to worry, that doesn't happen yet. During their drive, the movie takes the time to establish how uptight and anal Sally is, what with her Uber specific orders, which, mind you, I don't have a problem with because I just read that as the girl knows what she wants and is pretty vocal about it. Harry, meanwhile, comes off as this slovenly slob that just screamed man-child at me because nope, if I'm driving and your ass proceeds to start spitting out seeds from the fruit you're eating without first rolling down the windows or getting a bag, best believe I am dropping you off by the side of the road and your ass can walk all the way to New York for all I care. What's even worse is that the entire plan was for them to share the driving duties as it's quite the trip. But like I said, Harry is a man-child and doesn't budge, and so the onus falls on Sally to drive them both all the way to the city, which had me constantly asking, so what value does this jackass bring to your life, Sally? But anyway, they are recent graduates at this point and they both have some growing up to do, Harry even more so. One thing does stand out for the both of them during this drive though, especially when they pull up at a diner to grab a bite to eat, and that is their differing ideas about relationships. Because you see, Harry is of the opinion that men and women cannot be friends as the sex part gets in the way. Sally doesn't agree with this thought, of course, and is appalled that Harry thinks that, but Harry wouldn't budge, insisting that men can't be friends with women when they find them sexually attractive. And as he points out to to Sally, he finds her very attractive. Sally is rightfully pissed at what she believes is her friend's boyfriend making a pass at her. And after they reach New York, they part ways, both intending to never have to run into each other ever again. Oh, and somewhere in their argument was their differing takes on the ending of Casablanca. Harry believes Ingrid Bergman's Ilsa, of course, wanted to stay with Humphrey Bogart's Rick, while Sally disagreed, as she would rather be the first lady of Czechoslovakia rather than stay with a man who runs a bar in Casablanca, even if the man is played by Humphrey Bogart. As expected, this contributes to their drift and is a take that Harry will never forget, while Sally most certainly forgot and would recant in another decade. 5 years later, 1982, Harry and Sally run into each other at the airport just before they board. Sally is dating an acquaintance of Harry named Jo, and Harry doesn't immediately remember her. It isn't until she's placing her order whilst they're on the flight that it clicks for him that they graduated from the University of Chicago together, and he wonders if she was this beautiful when they were in school and if they had sex together. Question that irks not just Sally but me as well. Please note at this point that this man is 27. That is an adult, y'all. Anyway, it proceeds to ask about Jo, and Sally admits to their relationship being new and her not having any interest in getting married, which then throws her for a loop when Harry informs her that he is engaged and is about to be married to a lawyer named Helen. Sally considers this quite optimistic of Harry, who admits that it was the next stage for him since he was tired of the song and dance that is dating. As they disembark from the plane and leave the airport, Harry tries asking Sally to hang out together for dinner, to which she reminds him about his rule that men and women can't be friends, and Harry immediately amends the rule, saying that they can be friends, but only if they are in relationships with other people. But then he goes off on this long rant about the fact that that friendship, however, would in turn threaten the relationship, since the partner would wonder if something is missing from the relationship that would have led for them to have to keep a friend that isn't them outside their relationship. And God's, that sounds so exhausting, which probably explains why Harry's marriage doesn't last, because in 1987, 5 years after their plane ride together, Harry and Sally once again run into each other at a bookstore, where they reveal that Sally and Jo had broken up because she wanted more from their relationship and Jo was still stuck in their no strings attached arrangement that they had 5 years prior and doesn't want to change things. Harry, meanwhile, is in the middle of divorce proceedings as Helen has left him for another man. It is therefore been 10 years since their ride to New York, and with them both now in their early 30s, they have reached the point in their life where they are okay with pursuing a friendship with each other. A friendship that leads to them having phone conversations that last into the night, watching the same movies together, Casablanca. And yes, Sally has no recollection of her ever saying that Ingrid Bergman's Ilsa Lund would and should indeed choose Paul Henry's Victor Laszlo over Humphrey Bogart's Rick Blaine. As far as she's concerned, she's always been Team Humphrey Bogart, a claim that has Harry rolling his eyes at her. Clearly, she has matured and her tastes have changed. In addition to their hangout sessions and movie watching, they also end up coaching each other about their love and sex lives in an open, candid way. There is an hilarious scene in there where they are talking about sex, and Sally's amused that Harry's belief that he can tell when a woman is faking it, which is a laugh I also echoed, because, boy... Anyway, Sally, to prove her point, proceeds to have the longest, loudest fake orgasm that had everyone in the diner looking shocked, and a patron, who it turned out was played by the director, Rob Reiner's mother, ended up telling one of the waitstaff that she will have what Sally is having. Now, all these chats and honest candid talk befuddles Harry's best friend Jess, who can't wrap his head around all the sex and dating talk that Harry is having with Sally, because he too believes in Harry's previous school of thought that men and women can't just be friends since sex would always get in the way. And clearly, Harry finds Sally very attractive. But is it a previous school of thought though? At the New Year's Eve's party, Harry and Sally find themselves leaning in for a kiss. It clearly speaks to their growing attraction, but it's still awkward and is what motivates both of them to try and set up the other with their best friend, i.e., Sally tries setting up her bestie Marie, played by the late and ever brilliant Carrie Fisher, with Harry, whilst Harry tries setting up Sally with Jess. Unfortunately, neither Jess nor Marie liked the persons they were being set up with and instead ended up falling for one another, leaving Harry and Sally behind to gape at their friends who left their double dates together and ran off with each other instead. A couple of days later, whilst Harry and Sally are shopping at an electronics store, they run into Harry's ex, Ellen the lawyer, and the man she cheated on him with, who she's very much with at the moment. And whilst Harry tries to hold it in and Sally comes to his rescue, it does set him off when they have some alone time with their friends. Sally, meanwhile, ends up calling Harry one night in tears. Turns out that her ex, Joe, who had claimed that he didn't want the commitment of a relationship when she had asked him for it, was going to have a baby with someone else, confirming to her that it wasn't that Joe didn't want a relationship. It was that he didn't want a relationship with her. She is, as expected, quite emotional, and Harry's there, and one thing leads to another, and they have sex. The next morning, things get very awkward, and they are both left with feelings of regret, particularly Harry, who makes his getaway with a quickness. They end up having a loud argument at Jess and Marie's wedding reception afterwards when Sally confronts Harry, and when Harry tries to reset their relationship to them being just friends and for Sally to get over it, Sally doesn't want to do that, and that puts a stop to their friendship. The days pass. Harry tries reaching out to Sally to try and patch things up, but she informs him that she is done being his consolation prize. At the New Year's Eve party, whilst with Jess and Marie, it is clear that Sally misses Harry, and Harry in turn is missing her too, at which point, just before midnight, he rushes out to go be with Sally. As Sally is about to leave the party, Harry comes running to declare his love to her. Sally is unwilling to listen, attributing Harry's declaration to him feeling lonely because of the holidays, and he responds by telling her that he loves that she gets cold when it's 71 degrees out. He loves that it takes her an hour and a half to order a sandwich. He loves the little crinkle she gets up on her nose when she's looking at him like he's nuts. He loves that after he spends a day with her, he can still smell her perfume on his clothes. And he loves that she's the last person he wants to talk to before he goes to sleep at night. And it is not because he's lonely, and it's not because it's New Year's Eve. The reason why he's there that night is because when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with someone, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible. As expected, an emotional Sally points out that this is just like Harry saying things like this that makes it impossible for her to hate him. She smiles at him through her tears, and they kiss to Auld Lang Syne being sung in the background. And we close with Harry and Sally as the last of the interviewed couples informing their interviewer that they got married 3 months later, that is 12 years and 3 months after their first meeting. And they had a great wedding with a delicious cake with the chocolate sauce on the side. And we see the domesticity that is Harry being won over to Sally's exacting ways with regard to her food ordering and how it caters to the different needs and preferences of others. The end. It is funny that I had such a lot to say in my synopsis of this film because honestly, When Harry Met Sally is such a weird film for me. On one hand, I can see why it's such a classic and there are parts of it that I did enjoy and find entertaining. But at the same time, I can't get over the fact that this film basically spends its time waiting for Harry to grow up and let go of his avoidant ways to finally get around to realizing that it is Sally for him and that it would always be Sally. And whilst I know that a lot of people will consider that very romantic and swoon-worthy, I don't. Because ultimately, what exactly is that telling us? That we need to learn to put our own needs and wants on the back burner as we wait for the people we love, who we believe love us back, to grow and come to that realization? Like what? I've seen talks and comments where people have gotten into full-on arguments because it would seem that a dislike for this film is considered a very unpopular opinion with how loved it is. And I've seen that quick to dismiss retort of, you just don't like Harry because he's not physically attractive. And I beg to differ. Harry Burns can have a face carved by the gods and a body sculpted by Michelangelo, and I would never be able to unsee the scene of his 22-year-old ass spitting the pits from the grapes he was eating at Sally's window. I mean, if you're eating seeded grapes, either bring a bowl along so you can spit the seeds into the bowl, and when you're done, you can dispose of them all, or hold on to that anger, damn it, because that scene was just nasty and made him so unattractive to me for like most of the film. Now, I will be the first to admit it that his character got quite a glow up. Matter of fact, I am of the opinion that the story put in more effort into showing us his character growth than they did Sally, since he was the more immature one when they first met and so had to play a lot more of catch up. And whilst that makes sense to me logically and turned Harry Burns from a character I couldn't stand at the start of the film to one who had grown on me by the end, it meant that I left the film feeling that Meg Ryan's Sally got the shorter end of the stick, because the way in which this film tries to convey it, and I've seen people buy into this, is the fact that both Harry and Sally needed to grow before they could commit to a relationship with each other. Like, they both needed to put in the work to get their happy ending together. And I don't know about you, but that didn't make much sense to me. Harry was an immature prick who legit believed that a man can be friends with a woman he finds sexually attractive and vice versa. And Sally likes to give very particular coffee and food orders. In what universe are they even remotely on the same scale of they need to grow up? And the reason why I know that the film itself recognizes the imbalance in their relationship is because of the ending, where we see Harry list out the many reasons why he loves her and how those idiosyncrasies of hers are ones he finds very endearing. It is quite the powerful declaration, and yes, I totally see why it is soon worthy. If it was coming from the mouth of another character that isn't Harry, or maybe a Harry that I hadn't wanted to toss my shoe at from the first moment I was introduced to him, you all would have to scrape me off the floor with how much I would have dissolved into a giant puddle of goo at that declaration. It was so good. But what I did notice that for a film that sought to establish the character's growth, which is what then propels them into a relationship at the end, it is Harry and only Harry that's making this declaration and this move. Because you see, Sally has always been there. She's reached that point. She is more emotionally aware of what her needs are, and it is her refusal to compromise and fall back into old patterns with Harry that serves as his jolt into realizing what he's about to lose, and has him running to tell her that the rest of their lives together starts right that very moment. Considering that When Harry Met Sally is the blueprint for a lot of the romantic comedies that came after it, it means that I now know what film to blame for Hollywood's consistent portrayal of straight relationships with the woman waiting for the man to wise up and realize what he's about to miss out on. It's also this film that has decided to make the grand declaration of love fall on the men in said relationship, which means that they get to hold the impetus and momentum of the romance. They are the ones to take actions, and their love interests are left more in a passive state, waiting for them to ride in or run in with declarations in hand. And before you say this, yes, I am aware that this applies to not just When Harry Met Sally, but the romance genre as a whole, particularly the ones that cater to het couples. But I don't know, it hits more with me for this film than with others. Maybe it's because I kept waiting for the entire film for Sally to actually vocalize why it is Harry for her, the same way Harry vocalized why it is Sally for him, and we never get that. And because I spent a lot of the film still stuck on a lot of Harry's past behaviors, I guess being able to see him from her eyes and her perspective would have helped me immensely in getting on board their ship. But then again, that's just me and my thoughts. I would as always love to hear yours. Have you watched When Harry Met Sally yet? Is it one of your favorite films? If it is, trust me, I am not judging. If it isn't, I would love to hear why it doesn't click as well for you either. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Like this video if you've watched this far and haven't done so yet. Share this if you want. Support me on Patreon if you can. If you can't, however, do consider checking out my other channels. One is my gaming channel and the other holds my ASMR content. I have them both linked in the description bar if either of them sound like something you might be interested in. Whichever the case may be, however, I will see you tomorrow with a new video. Until then, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.